This morning, you can find some Democrats smiling, maybe for the first time in the last few months. That's after some good special election results, an outright win in Wisconsin and some better margins in the state of Florida. So what does it all mean and what really happened? CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton is here. Let's start with a little bit of Wisconsin, right? An amuse-bouche on Wisconsin. This was a race. Elon Musk spent big in this race to sway the Supreme Court race there. And he also went to Wisconsin, which may, honestly, have backfired.
Yeah, I think it may have backfired. Look, I think if there's one thing we should be taking away from the results in Wisconsin and the polling that we have from Wisconsin and national, if you are a Republican candidate running in a swing state, you don't want Elon Musk anywhere near you. Yes, maybe you like the money, but you do not want his presence in your state. Why is that? Elon Musk, simply put, is an unpopular guy. He is political poison. Look in Wisconsin, his net favorable rating, minus 12 points, 12 points underwater. That is an even worse number when you look nationally. Look at that. It's minus 17 points. So if there's one big lesson to take away from Wisconsin is Elon Musk does not help Republicans when he shows up. If anything, the data suggests that he hurts them. Republicans, stay clear of Elon Musk if you want to win in a swing state, at least in terms of his physical appearance in your state.
All right, what did we see in terms of swings in Florida?
What do we see in the terms of swings in Florida? You know, we were talking about Florida 6, and you can see it here. The election margins in the U.S. House District, you know, Donald Trump won the 6 by 30 points. Last night, what did we see? We saw the Republican Randy Fine win by 14. That's a swing of 16 points. But that's not anywhere near the swing we saw in Florida 1. Look at that. Donald Trump won it by 37 points. The Republican won last night, but only by 15. That's a 22-point swing. We're talking about an average 19-point swing from the baseline back in 2024 in just a matter of 4 or 5 months. These are massive shifts. These are massive shifts to the left. Democrats really have to like this, even if the Republicans add it to their majority in terms of what this potentially means down the road. You take this type of swing, you put it on some swing districts, that's very good news for Democrats.
Now, all of us who have this certain political sickness over the last 24 hours, we're talking about Kansas, Harry. Why are we focused on Kansas?
Kansas is on my mind, and it's not just because I want to go home Toto. Look at this. Kansas 4th District election margins. If you go back in time to 2017, what did we see? You know, you remember back in 2016, Donald Trump won the 4th District by 27 points. And then all of a sudden, this ruby red district, Ron Estes won in April of 2017, but just by 6. Ergo, a 21-point swing. Very similar to that average 19-point swing we saw in those deep red districts last night in Florida. And then you say, okay, this tells us something about the political environment going into 2018, where Republicans, of course, lost. And, of course, generally speaking, we look back, special elections and midterm results. If a party outperforms in a special election since 2005, 5 out of 5 times they won and win the U.S. House. Perhaps last night in Florida is a sign of things to come.
And again, it's an explanation of why Elise Stefanik is not going to be the ambassador to the United Nations. All right, Harriet, and thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Joining us right now to talk more about this is Democratic Congressman from Wisconsin, Mark Pocan. Congressman, thank you for coming in. This was a big win last night, a win by 10 points for this state Supreme Court seat. What do you take as the biggest lesson or takeaway from last night?
Oh, thanks for having me. I mean, clearly, this not only was a 10-point win in a purple state, but the turnout was so high. It was people coming out to say what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing is not supported. People don't want their health care and long-term care cut. They don't want education cut. They don't want food assistance cut, all so that Elon Musk and Donald Trump can get a tax cut. This was a very strong, resounding vote, and the vote was absolutely against the Trump-Musk agenda.
Were people voting for Susan Crawford, or were they voting against the influence that Elon Musk was trying to put in this race?
Look, Susan Crawford is a very qualified judge, and she's going to be a great Supreme Court justice. But I think she'll even tell you most people probably couldn't identify her if they were in line with her at a grocery store. That's just kind of the way it happens. But it was clearly a vote against what's going on right now in Washington. The turnout, the intensity was all signs of that as well.
Let me ask you about Florida. The House Majority Leader, Steve Scalise, told reporters last night that picking up those 2 seats, holding those 2 seats, would be a quote-unquote big improvement for the party's current majority where it stands right now. Byron Donalds was just on speaking with
Jeff Mason, to you first. Your top lines from tonight's special election results. You know what my top question is what is President Trump thinking after watching Elon Musk fail in Wisconsin? He's such an important advisor to President Trump, and they're so close, and President Trump loves having him around. No doubt was cheering him on, not only politically in Wisconsin, but just generally the show that Elon Musk brings when he goes to somewhere, a place like that and does what he did. President Trump doesn't like failure, and my guess is he's disappointed about the political results of that race and the fact that sending Elon in there with his money and with his bravado and with his cheese hat didn't turn out to get the response and get the result that he wanted.
Yeah, but Charlie, isn't that perfect for Trump? Because it wasn't his money and it wasn't his head with the big hunk of cheese. He can blame Elon.
Yeah, by the way, welcome to Wisconsin, Elon Musk. I think we sent you a message here. I mean, the message from Wisconsin to Elon Musk is womp womp. No, I imagine that there are a lot of establishment Republicans who are breathing a sigh of relief because clearly this takes some air out from under Elon Musk. This election had a lot of different issues, but ultimately it was a referendum on Elon Musk and on Donald Trump. I literally never got a piece of literature for Brad Schimmel, the conservative candidate, that did not include a picture of Donald Trump. So in Washington today, they really ought to be asking themselves, is Elon Musk an asset or is he turning out to be a toxic boat anchor for the Republican Party? And this is, look, I mean, everything in Wisconsin is decided in razor-thin margins. What you're seeing here is a blowout. Elon Musk and his $26 million got wrecked tonight in a state that Donald Trump won just a couple of months ago. Very bad news for Elon Musk. Very bad news for his position as being the kingmaker in the Republican Party right now.
Senator Booker's speech was strong. It was substantive. But perhaps what was most touching about it was that it was soulful. It was authentic. It came from his heart. Of course, the brilliance of his mind, but it came from his heart.
Yeah, it was the most fully authentic Cory Booker that I've ever seen. And I think there's something about that 25 hours that wears a person down. And he was standing out there with no defenses that you might bring to other sort of public speaking events. And it was really an astonishing thing to watch. One of the things he was concentrating on, and one of the things that he was getting in all of the emails that were being sent to him from around the country, was fear of what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to do to Social Security. And that is a fear that is as powerful as a voter could have in terms of an attachment to an important public program, the most popular public program in American governing history. I got to think, even when you get to judicial elections in Wisconsin, if people are afraid of what's going to happen to Social Security, they're not going to be voting for the side that's trying to knock it down.
That's absolutely correct. And this is an area where there's a clear distinction between what Democrats are all about and Republicans. We want to protect and strengthen Social Security. It's an earned benefit. The American people have paid into Social Security throughout their entire working life. And the nerve of these Republicans, led by Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who want to take a chainsaw to Social Security, the most important anti-poverty program for older Americans ever invented, which also happens to be this earned benefit. And why do they want to decimate Social Security? Because they want to actually give massive tax cuts to their billionaire donors, people like Elon Musk. And so I thought what Senator Booker did today was incredibly powerful in speaking to this issue. And as you know, Lawrence, in the House, we had a Democratic-led hearing on Social Security, the threats that it is under, and our commitment as Democrats to protect it.
And you did. I watched some of that hearing, and you did something at that hearing. I know you were present at the hearing that Republicans would never do. You actually listened to Social Security recipients and people whose lives could not work without their Social Security check. There was a woman who testified, I saw her testify, saying her Social Security check is $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month. And without that, she would be homeless. And the stakes identified by the actual beneficiaries in that hearing were as clear and as powerful as you could ask for.
That's absolutely right. It's one thing to say, and it is in fact true, that there are a little over 70 million people who rely on Social Security as a major source of income, half of whom live by themselves here in the United States of America. But when you actually hear from people whose very life will be impacted and shortchanged, possibly just cut short in terms of their ability to live with the dignity and respect that every American deserves, is very powerful. Republicans have no interest in these Americans telling their stories, which is why, as House Democrats, we will continue week after week to hold hearings. This is the third in a series of hearings that we've held. Initially, it was on Medicaid last week. We had a hearing on nutritional assistance and the fact that Republicans are literally trying to rip food out of the mouths of babies and children in this country. Today, Social Security, and we're going to continue to stay on this case.
Trump is blaming Elon. This is what he does. And look, I'm not saying Elon is without blame here, but Trump is blaming Elon. He's blaming Elon for the loss in Wisconsin and the lower numbers we saw in the special elections, even where the Republicans did win, the major decline in the vote share relative to the general election, which means that even any Republican seat with maybe even at plus 15 could flip Democrat if the trends that we saw last night hold. It could be 60 seats flipping to the Democrats in the midterms if those trends hold. He's blaming him. Now, again, Trump is blaming Elon because he kind of does deserve it, doesn't he? But also because Trump will never blame himself. We saw this after the 2020 election. To some degree, Trump was blaming Ivanka and Jared. He was blaming them. And I'm not defending Ivanka and Jared, but when you think of like the reasons Trump lost in 2020, I don't really think Ivanka and Jared were in the top, let's say top 20. I really don't think. I think there were other bigger things. But it's like he had to blame someone. In the midterms even, I think Trump blamed there were rumors at least that he was blaming Melania, because Melania recommended he pick Dr. Oz, and he did, and Dr. Oz lost, so he blamed her. But like, it's like, man, ultimately it's your decision, right? And you know, your wife's just saying, hey, I like this guy, isn't really the reason you lost. This is what's going to happen. Mark my words. This is the start of the end. And it could happen later today, tomorrow, that Elon is formally out of the circle. And it could start gradually. Like when we talk about Elon getting the boot, it might start with him maybe being around less often. His office moving further away from Trump. But mark my words, Elon will get the axe very soon.